You might remember her as the teacher who went viral for her rap verse to celebrate school being back after COVID.
Far as this teaching go, I am unreachable. I'm number one in your top 10. Miss Williams, been popping. 2020 new school, you're dropping. No COVID-19, ain't worried about a thing when economy ain't no stopping.
But years after that video was released, the rapping teacher faces serious charges of sexually assaulting a student. Adriana Cobb Williams was arrested for 2 counts of sexual assault by a teacher last December. And the former teacher/content creator has been out on bond since, but this week pleaded not guilty to the shocking crime. After the allegations came to light, the fallout was swift. According to WALB, Williams was placed on administrative leave about a week prior to her arrest. Then she resigned from her position within the Dougherty County school system in lieu of termination just 4 days prior to being arrested. Months later, in August of this year, Williams was indicted by a grand jury. And the grand jury indictment would reveal more into the troubling and disturbing allegations. Under count 1, Williams is accused of knowingly kissing the student. And under count 2, Williams is accused of knowingly performing oral sex on the same student. According to court papers, one of the alleged incidents happened between November 1st and November 30th of last year. And the second alleged incident occurred on December 2nd. Both incidents involved the same student who was a senior at Monroe Comprehensive School where Williams was a teacher. And while Williams was known for her wholesome content,
we are about to play musical chairs. What do y'all think this game represents already? Scarcity. Why? How? Not enough what? Chairs. What do the chairs represent? Our resources.
She's facing a decades-long sentence behind bars. And here's what else we know about the former teacher. According to her LinkedIn, she was a teacher at Monroe Comprehensive School within the Dougherty County school system in Albany, Georgia, from July 2017 up until her resignation last year in December. After she tendered her resignation, the school district released a statement writing, quote, "The Dougherty County Board of Education voted unanimously to accept the resignation of Adriana Williams in lieu of termination, with the understanding that the district will submit the appropriate reports to the Georgia Professional Standards Commission." And while there, she was also the cheerleading coach and featured some of her students and cheerleaders in social media videos that racked up hundreds of thousands of views on TikTok. But since she resigned amid the sexual assault allegations, her content has made a turn, now featuring videos of her husband and their young child as she seemingly rebranded as a family vlogger. And despite facing serious charges and accusations, the former teacher, now content creator, hasn't slowed down from posting videos. But she might want to lay low, as Cobb Williams faces up to 10 years in prison if convicted on each count. Let's bring on criminal defense attorney Kathleen Bogans to break down this case even further. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining me today. You know, Adriana Cobb Williams went viral for her rap video welcoming the kids back to school during the times of COVID. Was it shocking to you to hear that she is charged with sexually assaulting a student?
I think it's shocking to hear any teacher would be charged with it. Shocking, but not surprising, considering the news of recent years. And it's no longer terribly surprising that it's a female teacher. It's just when you go through the videos that she made and how much time she clearly spent with her students, as a former prosecutor, like it's clear that the opportunity was there. It's just the betrayal of a teacher actually taking advantage of that opportunity.
And, you know, the allegations are pretty disturbing, especially given her online persona, her upbeat personality that she portrays on social media. But she's accused of, sexual contact, kissing the student, sexual contact again, performing oral sex on the same student. What are your thoughts on just the nature of the disturbing allegations she faces while still kind of portraying this persona on social media?
So just a little bit of history. A lot of these laws have changed even in the past 10 to 15 years. About 10 or 11 years ago, I started in sex crimes, and I'm in Florida, but a lot of states have changed their laws, and Georgia has done so as well, to include 18-year-old students in this, in that it is also a crime to have any kind of sexual contact with an 18-year-old, just as much as it's a crime to have sexual contact with a 17-year-old. And one of the elements of that offense is that you are in a position of authority over that student, and that student attends your high school. So we when I say we, former prosecutors and my old unit, we used to get in teachers that were having consensual relationships with 18-year-olds they were teaching, and there wasn't a way to go after them. So they've kind of tightened up those laws. You could try to go after, oh, it's a familial or custodial relationship, but then if they weren't in the class, if they're just another teacher at the school, they had them in the past, there's no way to go after somebody like this. So you'll see in this indictment that they refer to a, quote, 12th grader, and they never refer to the student's age in it. Some 12th graders, I mean, by the nature of how we divide up grades in the US, most 12th graders will turn 18 during that school year. And some, especially considering the pandemic and students being left back and stuff like that, might even turn 19 during their last year of high school.
And, as we continue to live on social media for a lot of us, and we see people like Williams, who was an influencer. And at first, for her in particular, she posted about, her children that she coached and taught. Then it kind of turned into family vlogging in a way. Do you think that there was a problem at all of how close she was to her students, or even that she was oversharing her students on social media?
I think that is something that the school board and she and the parents are all going to have to grapple with in the coming days. I've certainly seen plenty of teachers put their students on social media. And I mean, there's a point to the argument that she's kind of meeting them where they are. I mean, when she first went viral, it was pretty much the height of the pandemic. It was the summer of 20, going back to school. And, kids have been home since March, and they're really interacting with each other only virtually. And I mean, that's a great way to meet students where they are and interact with them, get them excited to come back to school when you maybe haven't had the kind of attendance that you would look for online or virtually. And I'll also tell you that Albany, Georgia is kind of a more rural area too. So to get students into the school and get them back into the school, I mean, that's a fantastic idea, in my opinion. The problem with that is when you blur the line as to who's the teacher and who's the student. And she's also apparently was also the cheerleading coach, which explains her moves, frankly. I mean, she's an excellent dancer, but it also kind of lends itself to a more collegial relationship with students than a teacher who is absolutely in charge. So I'm not an administrator. I don't make policy, but I think this is something they need to grapple with.
Yeah, it's kind of a sticky situation given that it's kind of the new normal in a way, just a little bit. And then just going further into her social media, normally when former teachers face these types of accusations, they stay off social media or wipe it clean altogether. But are you surprised she continues to post on platforms like Instagram and TikTok? Do you think in a way maybe she's just not taking the allegations seriously?
I don't know. I am assuming her lawyer probably wants her to stop doing that. And were I retained to represent her, granted I can't because I'm not licensed in Georgia, but were I retained to represent her, I would tell her to stop and to take everything down and go extremely low profile. Because like I said, this is a relatively smaller town in Georgia. We're looking at potentially picking jurors out of this town, and we need you to not be the TikTok teacher where every juror knows who you are when they walk in. So I mean, I'm looking over here. I have a couple of extra screens over here because that's just the way I've set up my office. And to look at, there's a lot of like, I don't know, attention seeking kind of poses and stuff like that. And it's effective. I mean, it would make you want to click on it. Another thing that has kind of come to the forefront is a lot of teachers, particularly a lot of female teachers that engage in this kind of behavior, that sometimes there's a mental health issue that has not been appropriately diagnosed or medicated. You could even go back as far on Google and find out that Deborah Lave was, diagnosed with bipolar disorder after her whole thing came up. And there's been several other teachers. Bipolar disorder, one of the features is impulsiveness and hypersexuality. I'm not excusing it, but when you see somebody that is this into their job and this into their family, and it almost makes you wonder like, did something snap? And I'm not saying she shouldn't be punished. I just want to make that part clear. But where I'm representing her, I'd probably have her do a full mental health evaluation as well.
And do you see this case going to trial, or do you think prosecutors might give Williams a plea deal?
Well, so a lot of these kinds of charges, and I'll give you an example. So I used to be in a very large state attorney's office in Broward County. So we had about 15 sex crimes prosecutors. We were all specialized for sex crimes. That's all we did in that unit. And we would sit around at lunch and say, would you rather be a sex offender or do 5 years in prison? And every single person at the table picked prison. And then 5 years in prison, how about 10 years in prison? Would you rather be a sex offender or do 10 years in prison? And most of the people at the table picked prison. So that's my example for, we try these cases quite often over the designation. It's not that we couldn't come to a plea deal with other conditions, but the designation is, in my state, it's for the rest of your life. You can petition to be off of it in 25 years, which is an incredibly long period of time, but you have to be completely compliant with it for 25 years. So that means you have to register perfectly with no slip-ups and not be charged with any other offenses over that period of time. And then you've got residency restrictions, and the fact you have to register either 2 or 4 times a year on your birthday and on the anniversary or the 6 month opposite your birthday. There's a lot of things that you have to do to be a sex offender. So it would not shock me if they went to trial simply over the designation if the state is not willing to drop the designation as part of a plea deal.
Now, say in the off chance you do get your Georgia's criminal defense attorney license a little bit, and you are Adriana's attorney, what type of defense are you going to be using for this case?
Well, as an attorney, you have to work with what you're given. There's quite a bit that's out here. I think the first thing I would do is watch every single video that she has and try to talk to her about taking some of these down. And also I wonder if there isn't some kind of mental health component to this for somebody that seems to be this invested in her students and this invested in her school, and then seemingly out of nowhere, now I don't know if there's been other things in the past, but seemingly out of nowhere, this shining star does this thing that she knows to be wrong and is, has completely blown up her life. And then to continue posting about her family on social media after being indicted is another, I don't know, I'll date myself by saying the Arsenio Hall things that make you go, So that's what's kind of itching at the back of my brain. I don't know that, but that would be my first move, is to have her evaluated and then go to the prosecutor with those results.
And in your opinion, when these cases come up, I always go to the victim and how the alleged victim is kind of feeling throughout all of this. What, in your opinion, do you think that the victim is feeling throughout all of this, seeing that, one, they were allegedly taken advantage of by their teacher, and now their teacher kind of is, in a way, acting as if nothing serious really happened? What are your thoughts on how the student is feeling throughout all of this?
So students that are involved in these cases are often ostracized by their peers. While their names are not used, there's protections in the law to protect the identity of sex offender, of sex crime victims. But everybody at the school knows who it is. I will bet you anything. Everyone at the school knows what student it was. Everybody knows what teacher it was. Everybody knows what the allegations are. And when there's these kinds of salacious allegations, the rumor mill can explode. And this is a relatively, I would say, this is a relatively small town. So it would not shock me if the student decided to move somewhere else. Now, granted, they're 12th grade, there's college on the horizon, but I have to imagine that the rest of their senior year was incredibly unpleasant.
And say that, for instance, the student was 18. Do you think Williams just thought in her head that I'm not doing anything wrong? What I'm doing is not illegal. Do you think that she had some type of, answer to what she allegedly was doing?
I don't know. I can't get in someone's head that does this. Any teacher would know this is wrong. It would certainly be immoral, if not illegal. If the student was 18, she might have thought it was technically not a crime, but it would technically also get her teaching license revoked. So for somebody, I just, when someone risks this much, I think we're going to find out some things in the coming days, some kind of explanation as to what happened here. That said, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't want to denigrate Ms. Williams before she has a defense out there. But if you're asking me my opinion, I think there may be something else out there that we're unaware of. Lance, if you're watching, take that down.
And we do cover a lot of these types of cases here at Law and Crime. A teacher who happens to be married, they appear as the favorite teacher, or they're super close with their students, then they're accused of this type of crime. What's your message to parents and even schools for potential warning signs to look out for?
So adolescents, by their nature, push boundaries. That's what they do. And it's up to the adults around them to make sure those boundaries are firm. In order to prevent these kinds of things, you have to think about what you need in order for this to happen. What you need is privacy, and you need the assurance that no one's going to say anything. So encouraging communication, dialogue with students is number one. And number two, and if only to protect everybody, why not just have two adults in the room at all times when we're two adults present for cheerleading practice, a coach and an assistant coach. And I hate to put it that way. I hate to say this is where we are as a society, but you should be able to trust your kids' teachers. And if you feel like you can't, another adult in the room is probably a good way to protect them.
It's a lot to unpack here, and I'm sure we'll see more information kind of come out in the near future. Kathleen, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and giving your analysis. Before we sign you off, though, is there anything else you'd like to add about this case?
Oh, I mean, I just think it's incredibly sad. Her wedding website is still up. There's a small child involved. She's put her young son on social media too. I would hope that she takes these things down and tries to focus on defending this case and parenting her child.
All right, Kathleen, again, thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Adriana Cobb-Williams pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of sexual contact by teacher. If convicted, she faces up to 20 years in prison. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.